Morning, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about our research about the predictive factors of Europe Top 5 League by Andy Lamarck, Menka Sikun, myself, Ravish Kanakia, and Amoda Yakubu. Our goal is to be able to predict the overall rating of players in the EA Sports 25 from all top 5 European leagues. All our data was gathered from Kaggle.com about the players and will be used in this model. Our research will be focused on approximately 16,880 players from the whole database. So the goal of our research is to determine the key attributes that predicts the overall rating of a player according to the data that we have from EA Sports game. It will be primarily focused on the relationship between the attributes of a player, such as the league they belong to, their pace, their age, and their position, which is our key variables. This study will also look at possible external factors that may have an effect on the rating of the players. The variables, for example, the league, the age, the position, and the pace, 3 of them are categorical variables, and the age is a numerical variable. This research aims to provide an in-depth understanding of the main determinants of the player rating.
So for this part, from the position variable, we have decided to group them in terms of position on the field instead of actual position duties. So we have reclassified detailed player positions into broader categories such as defenders, attackers, goalkeepers, and etc. This was done to simplify the position of each player and hence making it easier to analyze and interpret the data. And below we can see the code that we've used to do so and all the categories as well. And for this one, the preview of data. So again, from our filtered data, we have selected some specific columns to record the details of each player. And the data set has been reduced into a simpler and smaller version. It includes only necessary columns by removing all the unnecessary one. And this makes it easier to understand the data set. And as we can see over here, our chosen variable are name, age, overall, position, pace, league. To be able to get a glimpse of our data, again, from the filtered data, the glimpse of the data will provide a detailed summary of the selected data, and it provides an overview of the 6 selected variables from our data set. And again, below that, you'll see the code that we've used, the glimpse filtered data, and showing a preview of our data. We kind of generated a sample of 5 observations from our data set. So out of our data set, we chose 5 sample. And for this part, we kind of did a tiny test to be able to check for any missing values within our data frame. And from this computation, we can see that we don't have any missing values within our data frame. The value 0 indicates that we don't have anything missing in our data frame.
Next up, we grouped our remaining players by their league and investigated the trend league-wise. We discovered that all league correlation between age and overall were positive, which suggests that as age goes up, the overall rating is likely to increase as well, with the strongest correlation being in Spain and the weakest in Italy. In regards to the median, we could see that all top 5 league median values for overall rating were between 70 to 75, which suggested a slightly right-skewed distribution. For the standard deviation, we saw that it varied from 5.59 to 7.44, which meant here that the skill set varied the most in the English Premier League. To further inquire about the derived information, we later created an histogram of numbers of players against overall, which confirmed our former thought of right skewness. We also took a look at the overall against the position in a box plot, which suggested here that the rating for defenders, attackers, and midfielders seemed to be clustered, but had some outliers, while the rating for goalkeepers had a larger variation with no apparent outliers. Finally, we derived 2 scatter plots. In the first one, we plotted age against the overall, which would confirm here that as age increases, the rating tends to increase. From this, we can also see a little bit of curvature caused by all the players with low rating, but the model still seemed to be fairly linear. For the second one, we used a Kohler plot to analyze the relationship between the overall and the position. And then we came to the conclusion that the defenders, which are represented in orange, the attackers in purple, and the goalkeepers in green, tend to have a rating increase more frequently than midfielders as age increases, as the line of best fit are steeper.
The regression model, this regression model predicts the overall rating and performance of a player based on their age, their pace, and their position. We have a dummy variable. Position is encoded as a dummy variable. We reference category as goalkeeper, midfielder, and the attacker. But we see more or less like an extrapolation for the goalkeepers and the attacker. The goalkeeper is pretty much is an interpretation where we see that the goalkeepers have overall ratings that are 3.857 points lower than, well, in comparison to when the player is not a goalkeeper, when the age and the pace is constant. Using the t-test to test each of the independent variables adds any significance to our model. We see that the age, the pace, and the position when the player is a goalkeeper, these three adds significantly to our model as opposed to the midfielder and the attacker. They do not add any. We fail to reject the null hypothesis that says they add any significance to our model. Then we use the F-test to test the overall significance of the model. The F-test has a p-value of 2.2 times 10 raised to the power to negative 16. And then this F-test generally, we reject the null hypothesis and we conclude that the overall model is highly significant in confirming that the predictors collectively influence the overall rating. We also see the adjusted R-square of 36.6%. The interpretation is pretty much that about 37% of the variation of Y is explained by the model, which is kind of average, moderate, because there might be other important predictors that might be missing.
From the pair plot, the residual appear symmetric, therefore suggesting an acceptable model performance with no major problems. Looking at the sum square in our first ANOVA, we can see that age predicts most of our model, but still both variables used are significant with their small p-values, that is smaller than 0.05. Finally, by including the quadratic, we could see that the relationship between age and overall is not totally linear, meaning that if we were to look further ahead, we would need to do some modification to the model.
In conclusion, we analyzed the overall rating of players from the top 5 European football leagues, and we conclude based on our F-test that these variables are significantly important in predicting what the performance of an individual player is.